So I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. So I've been using Instagram pretty seriously for about 2 years now. And it seems like every single time that I'm starting to make progress on, growing my followers and getting better engagement, they change the algorithm and then it's just back to square one. And if I'm being completely transparent, it's kind of affected the way that I view my work. I really try not to attach the quality of my work to the amount of likes that I get on Instagram, but honestly, it does play a part. And it just feels so frustrating pouring so much time and effort into the work that I'm doing. And I feel like it's some of the best work that I'm doing. And on the other end of that, Instagram doesn't show my work to anybody, and therefore it doesn't get any likes, it doesn't get any comments, and no one sees it. And so at the end of the day, I just don't feel like making anything because it's like, what's the point of making all this stuff if no one's even gonna see it? Now, it's completely possible that I'm just really bad at making poster designs and no one wants to break the news to me. But honestly, I really don't feel like that's the case. I feel like I make stuff that's pretty good. Maybe I'm not the greatest, but I feel like, I'm at least worth something, at least worth a like. And so like many other artists, I've become frequently frustrated by Instagram, its algorithm, and just trying to do my thing on there. And since Instagram isn't really working for me, I'm trying to explore other avenues. And that's where this video comes in. And a thought I had was, what if I just make a video that's a compilation of all the posters I made in a single month? I'll show what I made in the month, and then I'll give a little bit of commentary on each poster. Maybe this video is pointless and no one really cares, but I'm just so frustrated with Instagram, so I've just got to try something. So if you think this kind of video is dumb and pointless and you're not interested in it, please let me know. And likewise, if you think it's cool and enjoyable, also let me know. But with all that out of the way, let me show you what I posted this month. So the first thing that I posted this month was actually part of a video that I did earlier this month. Since I did a video on this poster already, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It's just a fun little typographic poster that I made. Now this next one isn't necessarily my greatest design, but I do really enjoy it. It's pretty simple, and I've really enjoyed just kind of experimenting with type more and just seeing how I can kind of put different fonts together and see what I can come up with. Nothing too crazy here, just trying to flex some creative muscles and try out some different stuff. And now I actually feel the same way about this poster. Whenever I first saw this photo, I knew I could do something cool with it. I knew I could remove the background, but also that I could keep the ground that the person is standing on. And I thought having that concept in mind would be enough to kind of bring out some ideas, but honestly, I really struggled whenever I was making this poster. I remember I tried a bunch of different things, but just nothing quite seemed to work. And then eventually this is where I ended up. Wouldn't say it's my best work, but it's all right. Now this poster's pretty interesting. I feel like sometimes I can kind of box myself into using just the kind of regular shapes that comes with Photoshop, just like circles and squares and triangles. But what I wanted to do was kind of try to mimic the movement of the woman with a shape. I think that led to a little bit more of an interesting composition because it was a little bit more customized for the photo. Now this poster is a little bit more of just an experiment. I saw a YouTube tutorial where you can kind of make this grainy kind of smear effect, and I thought it was really cool and had a really nice aesthetic. I just kind of wanted to see how I could make that into my own and use it in my own workflow. And so that's how I came up with this design here. Now I think this was one of my favorites that I posted this month. Like I said earlier in the video, I'm really just having a lot of fun exploring type and just kind of putting it together in ways that I probably wouldn't normally do it, or in ways that might not be very traditional. But I just had this thought pop into my head about being petty and kind of being angry and upset. And so I thought I could kind of use a reminder not to be like that sometimes. And so I was like, well, why don't I just make that into a poster? And so here we are. Now this poster, I was experimenting a little bit more with layers. I've been using these textures and patterns for a while, but I hadn't really tried layering them up in this way before, and I thought it'd be kind of an interesting way to do it. So it's kind of like we've cut inside of this man, and now we're seeing his insides. And that's kind of the way that I approached this. But since what I'm posting is actually like 10 weeks behind, it's been a few months since I've actually looked at this. So now looking at this almost 3 months later, I think I can say this is one of my more weaker designs. I remember having a lot of fun making it, but I feel like at this point, I could do better. Now this was one that I really struggled with. So I took the idea from a song from one of my favorite bands in which they have a lyric that says they fixed your brain when they were young. So I just kind of wanted to make a poster that was based off of that. And so really what I wanted to showcase in this design, kind of like someone being programmed with information. And so where I ended up is like this circuit board mainframe kind of imposing this information directly into this statue. And so the way that I see it is kind of like all this propaganda that's being forced into you has removed some of your humanity and your capacity for critical thinking. But like I said, this one was pretty hard. I had to try a lot of different things to get where this ended up. But I think the end result is pretty cool, and it actually did pretty well on Instagram, so I think other people thought so too. Now with this poster, I wanted to explore an effect that I kind of made up earlier in the year. I actually did a tutorial on how to kind of get this effect, which I'll leave a link to that video in case you're interested. But really, I just felt like it had been a while since I had done something in that kind of style, so I just kind of wanted to flex those muscles and try it again. The results are different from what I normally would expect from this effect, but I think it's still really cool. Now, this was a poster that I actually didn't post. Chronologically, it comes next, but I just didn't really feel that attached to it. I didn't feel like it was that strong, so I just skipped it. But for context's sake, I watched a video by Texture Labs in which they kind of did this green, blue, and red separation, and then you can apply textures and photographs to those specific colors, which are mapped to the luminance values of the picture that you're using. But I just kind of wanted to see what that would look like in my own style. So you guys are actually the only people to see this, so let me know what you think about it. Now this was a pretty fun one to make. When I first saw the image, I knew I could do something cool with it. And so I just decided to make this kind of a DJ music kind of collage. But once I got all of the collage elements together, I felt like it was kind of empty. And so what I ended up doing is kind of turning it into more of a magazine layout, which is something I haven't really explored that much in my posters. But for me, this was really enjoyable and I really liked it. So I've actually kind of started to applying more of this into some of my future designs, which if you're interested in seeing those, I'll be posting those on my Instagram soon. Now this was another one that I didn't post. I wouldn't say there's necessarily anything wrong with it, as much as I just didn't really feel like it was that strong. I'm really trying to be a little bit more selective about what I post on Instagram. And so when I looked at this, I knew it was okay, I just didn't feel like it was great. And so I just didn't post it. Now this is my favorite that I posted this month. At the time, I had seen a design that was kind of similar to this that kind of inspired me to make it. They took a photo of this woman running, they removed her from the background and then put her over a pond so it looked like she was running across the water. And then in addition to that, they did a lot of cool layout stuff and graphic stuff, and it really just kind of came out looking really cool. And so I just kind of wanted to take that idea and come up with my own version of it. Now their design was kind of happy and whimsical, but because of the photo that I used, it kind of looks depressed, and so I just kind of wanted to lean into that. And I just thought the phrase, "I'm requesting a lobotomy," was kind of funny, but also kind of matched the energy, so I just went with it. But once I added in the text at the top, the bottom felt very empty, and so I opted to fill that in with some extra text, kind of like I did a couple posters back. Now this was my second favorite poster that I posted. I know I mentioned this earlier in the video, but I was trying to play around a little bit more with some inorganic shapes, and I felt like the way that I had placed the flower kind of called for it and it made sense. And so I just kind of leaned into that, but once I had the flower in the sky, this wasn't quite finished yet. And I thought it'd be cool if I added the vine or stem of a plant to make it seem like the flower was actually coming from something, but also just to kind of give another extra pop of color and just add a little bit more to the design. In the end, I think this came out pretty cool. Now this last one is kind of funny. If you're familiar with the design space at all, you've probably seen multiple versions of the same design where you cut off someone's head and you put like flowers in it or something like that. Even I've done that before, so no shade at anybody if you've done it. But my thinking was, what if I did the opposite of it and I cut the lower half of the face instead of the upper portion? But since he has his hands up on his face, I also had to cut out his hands. And while testing some things out, I flipped it 180 degrees and a funny thought popped into my head. I just thought it kind of looked like a handbasket and it was kind of funny, so I just kind of stuck with it. So I just kind of added in some extra plants, and then I added the circles in the background, but I thought I needed a little bit extra, so that's when I added the clouds and the hummingbird. And with that, that's all the posters that I posted in the month of July. Like I said earlier in the video, please let me know if this is a good idea or a bad idea. I'm just testing things out, so maybe I don't have to be so reliant on Instagram. But with that being said, I'm still going to be there for the time being, so if you are on Instagram and you haven't followed me yet, please do. But that's it for this video, so if you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate it if you would check out the rest of my channel and then consider subscribing. I hope to see you in the next video.